Abhay Charanarvindam Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Sri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantapuri Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Iskan Viviti Samstavakacharya Sri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Singho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Maya Jamuna Maya Ki Jai. Shrimati Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Shrimati Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Yajna Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Samveda Bhaktivinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Chalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Kuroti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Giri Yadkripa Taraham Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Paramanam Namaram Shri Chaitanyeshwaram. Hare Krishna. So, this Sri Vrindavan Dham is non-different from the spiritual world. When the Lord descends, He also brings with Him His abode and His associates, etc. When Lord Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago in this place in Vrindavan, so that Lord was prakat. Everyone could see Him. It doesn't mean that now the Lord is not here. The Lord is here, His pastimes are also going on. But for those who are conditioned by the three modes of material nature, for so many lifetimes and so many births, the transcendental nature of Vrindavan is covered over. When we become purified, our consciousness, when we become free from any desire for material happiness or material gain in this material world, then we can actually see what is the nature of Vrindavan. So, being partaking of the purificatory process is called devotional service or bhakti yoga. Srimad Bhagavatam explains that for one who's fully absorbed in the process of unalloyed devotional service, that by that devotional service, all of the desires for sinful activities, which are lying in the heart like a seed, ready to fructify, they become vanquished. And the example there is in Bhagavatam, that just as there may be fog in the morning sometime, but as the sun rises, the fog is dissipated, it's cleared away. In the same way, we have so many desires that are there within the heart. And as we engage in devotional service without any consideration, without trying to seek something back from that devotional service, so those sinful desires become eradicated, dissipated like the fog by the sun. They're called the Papa Bij that is lying within the heart. We see that people are performing so many sinful activities, eating meat, taking intoxication, illicit sex life, gambling. It's almost become like second nature for everyone in the Kali Yuga. When I first came to Bombay, way back in 1977, there were just a few what they call permit rooms. Right? And I asked, what is a permit room? And they said, well, that's where people go and drink liquor, and in order to do that, they need a permit, so it's called a permit room. So in those days, there were few permit rooms, but now on every corner in Bombay, practically speaking, you see family restaurant and bar. So I don't understand how it become a family restaurant when there's a bar. But it's everywhere. Now it's everywhere. Gambling, intoxication. Why? Because these sin seeds are in the heart. It's in the heart. So in order for someone to become free from these sin seeds that are within the heart, one has to take shelter of devotional service. To serve Krishna without any desire for anything in return. Just like the inhabitants of Braj, they are simply concerned with the pleasure of Krishna. In the material world, we're all concerned about our service. People should serve me. People should do something for me. But the devotees, pure devotees of Lord, their intention is that they only want to serve Krishna. They only want to please Krishna. That is their intention. So, developing that mentality, how to get to that place where we're not thinking about our own aggrandizement, we're not thinking about our own sense gratification, but we're thinking about the gratification of Krishna's senses. So that takes association. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada started this International Society for Krishna Consciousness to give everybody an opportunity to learn and experience what it means to serve Krishna, what it means to become free from sinful desires. Now, in order to do that, the chief and process is through the chanting of the holy name of the Lord by Harinam Sankirtan. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. The Lord and the Lord's name are non-different. And in the spiritual world, Krishna is engaged with his devotees, and there's this continuous exchange, loving exchange between Krishna and his devotees. It's mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that when Krishna sees the beauty of the gopis, he becomes very happy. And when the gopis see that Krishna becomes happy, they become more beautiful. And then in Krishna, again, he becomes more happy. And again, the gopis become more beautiful. So this competition is going on there between Krishna and his devotees in Braj. But that wonderful relationship of Krishna and his devotees descends into the material world during Kali Yuga in the form of Harinam Sankirtan. That's why this Harinam Sankirtan is so powerful. Harer Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kaloa Nasteva, Katiranyata. That in this Kali Yuga, the only way to become to the perfect stage of loving Krishna is through the performance of Harinam Sankirtan. So, Srila Prabhupada, when he was a householder, at the time he had children, he had a business in Allahabad, and he came to Kartik. Just like all of you have come to Kartik. Right? Srila Prabhupada also came to Kartik. And in Radha Kund, he met his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And at that time they were discussing. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that there's a fire in the mud. He was disturbed that although they had made a beautiful temple, the Bagh Bazaar Gaudiya Math marble temple in Calcutta, that the devotees were fighting with each other, his disciples, over who will get what room. He was disturbed by this. And he said to Srila Prabhupada at that time, better to sell the marble in the temple in print books. And he told him that if you ever get money, print books. So Srila Prabhupada understood that his Guru Maharaj was very fond of books, and he told him like that. So Srila Prabhupada was following that instruction. And in 1944, he started the Back to Godhead magazine, which he was, raising money to print, and he was printing and distributing, writing the articles, doing the production, everything he was doing himself. Selling the copies in the tea shops in Delhi. One time as he was distributing the Back to Godhead magazine, he got gored by a bull. So, Srila Prabhupada said that the instruction I got from my Guru Maharaj was to print books and distribute books. And I was following that blindly. I did not know what would be the result. And then, later he could see the result. The Krishna consciousness movement manifested itself. In New York City in the year 1966, ISKCON movement was incorporated, and since that time it's spread all over the world. So Srila Prabhupada said that you just distribute books and everything will come. Men, money. And in fact, whatever you see, Srila Prabhupada mentions in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in ISKCON today. When I first came into India in 1974, there was hardly anything in ISKCON. We had one center, a small piece of land in Mayapur, and there was one building in Mayapur. But now we look around today and we see so many centers, right? Just in Vrindavan, we have one, the Krishna Balaram Mandir, and there's another Radha Krishna temple in Rukmini Vihar. Right? So, Prabhupada said, whatever you see in ISKCON, it has manifested, it has come by the sale and distribution of these books. When I came finally to do service in India, I was part of the BBT, the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust Library Party. Srila Prabhupada was very fond of that distribution of his books in the libraries. So I came here, and we were traveling in Gujarat and distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. That time there was only 3 volumes of Bhagavatam in Hindi. We had 3 Hindi Bhagavatams, and we had up to about the 9th canto. So we'd go to a college and we'd sell all the books up to the 9th canto, and then we'd take a standing order for the rest of the books as they would come out. We were going to colleges, even higher and secondary schools, they call it higher secondary. And even some primary schools we would go to and sell the Bhagavatam 3 volumes. I remember I went to this one school, and the principal bought the 3 Hindi Bhagavatams, the first canto in 3 volumes. And he was very happy. And he asked me to address the teachers. So I went and I was preaching to the teachers. And they were all, not the students, just the teachers. And at the end of my lecture, one teacher stood up and said, "This is a sectarian school. This is secular. This country is secular. You can't preach about religion." Apparently the guy was a Christian. So he was all upset. So what I told him was, I said, you see, God sees everyone as his children. God doesn't say, here's a Christian, here's a Muslim, this is our invention. Right? But God sees everyone as his children. And he's concerned about who loves him. So whatever religion you're in, if by that religion you're developing love of God, that's a good thing. I told him. And then one of the Hindu teachers stood up and started shouting at the Christian, "Yeah!" And then all the teachers started shouting at each other. So I just grabbed my bag of books. I left that school. I was walking down this little country road, and back there they were shouting and screaming. So there's many experiences that we get by doing Sankirtan, book distribution. And Krishna always, is there to help. Krishna is within our hearts. Krishna is within the heart of everyone, every living entity. So Krishna inspires people to take to Krishna consciousness in as much as they can. And some people wonder how Srila Prabhupada, he got these foreigners to take to Krishna consciousness and chant and surrender their lives to him. But that's because the Lord within the heart inspired them to take to Krishna consciousness. Sarva Shachaham Ridisani Visto Matas Mritir Jnanam Apohanam Cha. Krishna says, I'm within everyone's heart. So by the desire of Srila Prabhupada to serve his spiritual master and spread the Krishna consciousness movement, the Lord from within the heart inspired people to come forward and take the Krishna consciousness. So book distribution is like that. We make the effort, but the actual distribution happens by the arrangement of Paramatma. The Supreme Lord, he enlightens them from within the heart to take a book, give a donation, and this is called Sankirtan. Right now we see many Sankirtan parties moving around, traveling, and distributing books. Prabhupada called this literary kirtan because the books are Shabda Brahma. They're transcendental knowledge in the form of literature. So literary kirtan. People who take a book and read it, they are benefited so much. In fact, they will get an opportunity to do devotional service again in their next life. When I first came to Juhu, we were doing the library party, and later on, one devotee who was in charge of the Sankirtan department. His name was Amoga Leela. He was sent to Pakistan to preach. He was actually, as a young child, his mother and father were Christian missionaries in Pakistan. So he was just a small kid, 4 or 5 years old. So he learned Hindi just by listening to the other kids. He knew Hindi. And when Prabhupada found out that there was one devotee who, Western devotee that knew Hindi, so he sent him to Pakistan. So Mogalila went to Pakistan, and they asked me to look after the book distribution department. And at that time, there was not so much book distribution going on in India. I had been in the Radha Damodar Traveling Sankirtan Party, and that experience, I tried to implement it here in India. And what the Radha Damodar Traveling Sankirtan Party was, there were many buses, and each bus had vans connected. There were about 100 devotees in the Sankirtan, Radha Damodar Traveling Sankirtan Party. So we tried to implement that, first of all, in Bombay. We got a bus donated by one businessman. His name was Dr. Narendra Desai. He was the owner of Alpar Private Limited. He donated a big bus. So we put Lord Jagannath in the back of the bus, and the doors opened in the back, so you could come up to the back of the bus and you would have darshan of Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra. And right in front of them, the devotee would sit down and display the books, and they would sell books. So that was the first bus we got, and then later on more buses came, and at one point, ISKCON Juhu had 5 buses traveling, and there were about 40 devotees in the traveling Sankirtan party. And there were just a few temples that were doing book distribution. After Juhu, Ahmedabad was Yasomati Nandan Prabhu. He started a couple of traveling Sankirtan parties. And then there was this competition that was going on between Juhu and Ahmedabad, who could distribute more. And it was a very heated competition. I remember one year during the December marathon, the books were going out, and Giriraj Swami, he was trying to get a big donation from one businessman. His name was Narayan Das Rati in Pune. He would sponsor like 2,000 Bhagavad Gitas, and that would put us in front of Ahmedabad, Yasomati Nandan Prabhu. You see, there's competition. There's nothing wrong with competition because in the spiritual world, because it's there to please Krishna. Like one cowherd boy, he's running after Krishna, and he tells the other cowherd boy, "I'll touch Krishna first." And the other cowherd boy says, "No, I'll touch Krishna first." Right? So that's competition. But transcendental competition means there's no envy. No envy. A devotee is never envious. No envy. You can test if you're Krishna conscious or not. Because if you have envy, you're not Krishna conscious. Simple as that. It's easy to put on a bead bag and to put on tilak get yourself some nice kanti mala, and think you're a devotee. But it's not so easy. We have to become free from envy. In the material world, if someone sees that someone is doing better than them, they're upset. They become upset. That's called envy. But in the spiritual world, when Radharani, she takes more pleasure in seeing her Sakhis enjoy with Krishna than she does enjoying with Krishna herself. So in the conditioned state, that's not easy for us to accommodate because of the impurities that are within the heart. But the surefire method for becoming free from envy and becoming situated in that non-envious state is by serving Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's importance can't be stressed so much because Mahaprabhu came specifically to spread the Sankirtan movement and give everyone an opportunity to experience the mood of the devotees in Braj. So that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, that mood is available through this Sankirtan movement and specifically through distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. When we first started distributing Marathi Bhagavad Gitas, they didn't have the whole Gita when I first came to India in 1977. They had up to 6 chapters. And it wasn't a very good translation in Marathi. It was pretty bad, the translation. But later on, they got the whole book translated, and it was a much better translation. In Marathi, it's Bhagavad Gita Jasya Tashi. So we were going out and we were distributing books in Maharashtra, and we distributed a lot. The first time I went with Lokanath Swami. We went to Pandharpur. How many have been to Pandharpur? Raise your hand. Oh. Who knows Marathi here? Raise your hand. Oh. Ya Nagya Sarvanyakriya Gya Bhaga Bhagavad Gita Jasya Tashi. Lokar stock sampliya hai. So we went to Pandharpur, Lokanath Swami, and there were few Indian devotees and mostly foreigners. We had a van, and we distributed that day 1,000 Marathi Bhagavad Gitas on Ashadhi Ekadasi. So, kind of forget what year that was, but for many years we distributed Marathi Bhagavad Gita in Maharashtra. And then I was thinking, well, we've sold so many Marathi Bhagavad Gitas, and what's the result? What's the next step? But I could understand because Lokanath Swami invited us to Pandharpur for the installation of Radha Pandriyanath. So we went there for the installation, and I saw so many devotees came to that installation from all over Maharashtra. All over Maharashtra. So that's the result. Devotees will come by distributing Srila Prabhupada's books and trying to understand the books. Srila Prabhupada many times said these books are not just for selling, they're also for reading. So the two things, sell Srila Prabhupada's books, read Srila Prabhupada's books, and try to apply the books in our lives, what's in the books. And in this way, we'll do good for others and we'll do good for ourselves. And that's kind of the essence of our movement. That's how our movement has come this far, is by selling Srila Prabhupada's books, by devotees being serious to understand what's in the books, and trying to share that knowledge with others. So, are there any questions, comments? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So thank you for such a wonderful class. My question is, many people have Bhagavad Gita. So I try to request them to take Krishna book, but they don't seem to take any interest. So that is the second book we mostly try to distribute after Bhagavad Gita. So how can we distribute Krishna books and other, teach them to take other books, which are lower books?
Yeah, well, Krishna will give you the intelligence how to do it. There was a book that was very popular back in the 80s. It was called Sukh Sagar. People would come to the table and say, "You got Sukh Sagar? You got Sukh Sagar?" Or they would say, "You got Gyaneshwari? You got Gyaneshwari?" So we'd give them the Gita. Yeah, here's Gyaneshwari. You want Sukh Sagar? Here's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Nectar Devotion. So Krishna, he'll give us ways to convince them to take other books. One way in the Krishna book is just to open up the pictures and show them, the beautiful paintings that are in the book. And that kind of helps sell the book also. Yeah, the people should be, it's a mixture of our endeavor and Krishna's sanction. We may endeavor, but if Krishna is not sanctioning, then how will they take the book? They have to be very fortunate, and Krishna has to sanction it. So, in order for us to be proper agents of Krishna, then we have to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness ourselves. How do we do that? By chanting nicely in the morning, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram. Following proper sadhana, right? Then we'll become, an authorized agent of Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. And much more likely that people will take the books when we do that.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Any other questions?
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for inspiring us to distribute more Srila Prabhupada's books. I was just curious to know if you could share one instance from your book distribution journey of selling Srila Prabhupada's books. Now, marathon month is coming. So, if you could share one profound instance that you had on book distribution, which would inspire us to do and get very, very consistent and doing robust books.
Let's see, one particular incident. Well, it's just that by distributing Srila Prabhupada's books, you become fixed up. You develop faith. Even for people to worship the demigods that stated in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives them that faith. People during the Ganesh Chaturthi, Ganapati Bape Moreya, they're chanting. Where do they get that faith? It comes from Krishna. It comes from Krishna. So when Krishna sees that we're trying to push forward his philosophy, Bhagavad Gita, his pastimes, Krishna book, Srimad Bhagavatam, then he increases our faith. So it's a matter of faith, developing the faith. The devotees from the West, when we first joined the Krishna consciousness movement, people kind of thought we were crazy. because we had shaved heads. And, they thought we were wearing our bed sheets, our pajamas. One time I was downtown chanting and my father walked by and he was with his, people that I knew, and he just kind of shook his head and kept walking. So faith is such an important thing. And the parents of some of the devotees would become so upset that their children became devotees. They thought they were like losing their children. They used to hire these people called deprogrammers and try to, capture the devotees, kidnap them, and then try to make them free from faith in Krishna or faith in Prabhupada. It was called deprogramming. So one time I was with two devotees. We were going to go into a rock and roll concert and sell books. And one devotee's name was Durlabhadarshana, and the other devotee's name was Uragrai. So we were just about to go into the concert, and this big car, is called a Cadillac, pulled up right next to us on the sidewalk, and 5 men jumped out, and one of them grabbed Durlabhadarshana and pulled him in the car. And I thought, oh. And I turned to the other devotee, Uragrai, to ask him what we should do, and he was gone. He ran away. So it was just me and the deprogrammers then. And they already got back in the car, and there was one of them that still had not gotten back into the car, and he was backing up. So I thought maybe I'll grab him. And he pulled out some nunchucks. You know what nunchucks are? They have 2 wooden sticks, and in the middle is a chain, and they swing around like that, called nunchucks. So I knew a devotee had a set of nunchucks, but he really didn't know how to use them. And I thought maybe this guy also don't know how to use it. So I lunged for him, and he went with the nunchucks. And then I thought, well, maybe he does know how to use it. So I didn't really have any other option. I started to shout, police, police, police. So out of nowhere, because it was a concert, young people, somehow or other, the police were there, and 2 police cars came. One in front of the Cadillac and one behind the Cadillac. And I was shouting, they're kidnapping him, they're kidnapping him. Durlabhadarshana was in the back, and one of the 2 programmers had him in the headlock. So the cop could see they pulled out their guns, and they told him to get out of the car, and he said, hey, he's got nunchucks on him. And he had not only nunchucks, he had a set of handcuffs. So just then, one guy in a suit and a tie and a briefcase comes walking across the lawn, and he talks to the police. And then the police say, well, we got to go down to the station. So we went down to the police station, and the cops were talking to these guys, and it turns out that they had some papers that they had gotten to the court to take Durlabhadarshana with them. And they were actually fake papers because they got him from a county where he didn't live anymore because he lived in the temple. But in any event, they took him away. And he was with these deprogrammers for about 10 days. They kept moving him to different places, and they were trying to convince him to give up Krishna consciousness. So in the beginning, he resisted. But they would just become more intense and more angry. So then he figured out, okay, I'll act like I've given up Krishna consciousness, and that way they'll become pacified. So that's what he did. And when they thought that he was deprogrammed sufficiently, they called his ex-girlfriend or something to be with him. And his father was involved in all this at the same time. So then they left him alone with his girlfriend. And what he did was, he opened the window and jumped out the window and ran away. So just imagine all of this um, tension that was created for him to give up Krishna consciousness, but he wasn't ready to give up Krishna consciousness. And he came back to the temple and served Krishna by distributing Srila Prabhupada's books all over America. So we should have that kind of faith. We should develop that kind of faith. And by distributing Srila Prabhupada's books, Krishna from within our hearts will give us that strong faith. And that's called Nishtha. Nishtha means that no matter what else happens, I'll serve Krishna. Is that okay? Any other questions? I can remember traveling in Maharashtra and we would park, we had a bus. The bus was very big. It was a full-size bus with Lord Jagannath in the back. So we'd park it, and sometimes the shopkeepers were so cooperative, they would give us an electrical connection so we could play our speaker. But sometimes they weren't. They weren't happy at all. And I remember this one time, the shopkeeper was very upset. He was insisting that we leave from in front of his shop. But we just stayed there and kept selling books. So he went and got the police. And the policeman came from the Thana, and he said, what are you doing here? So we told him we're selling Bhagavad Gita, doing this prachar work. Right? So the policeman saw that. And then he turned to the shopkeeper and said, what are you, a Muslim? They're selling Bhagavad Gita. Why are they giving them trouble? So Krishna helps. When we're out there, we're doing his work. Right? So Krishna helps us in performing Sankirtan. Any other questions? Anybody want to know something? Yeah, there's one in the back. Yeah.
Prabhuji, my question was, sometime I haven't complete Prabhupada's books and we get opportunity to distribute that book. At the same time, I thought I must complete it just to tell people I have read this book and I can say some few things about that book. So should I just read book to complete it, or should I nicely read Prabhupada book? Whether I don't know or don't know, to tell other people what is in this book, but I will give full attention to that book to read.
Well, there's two types of reading. You can read, like you said, just to be reading, or you can read with the idea that what I'm reading, I'm going to tell somebody else. So that's two different kinds of reading. Now, if you're reading with the idea that I have to explain what I'm reading to someone else, then you'll absorb that better. And in preaching to try to sell Srila Prabhupada's books, it's always good to explain to them what's in the book that you've read, something that's in the book. You can tell them that we're not this body, we're eternal spirit souls. That you read in the book and you explain it to them. So they get an idea also about what's in the book. Srila Prabhupada said that if you don't read the books, and anybody asks you, what's in the book, and you say, well, I don't know, I never read them, I just sell them, then that's not very good, he said. So reading the books with the idea of explaining to others what's in the books is a good program. Okay?
Prabhuji, do you have any experience in which you were stuck in such situation, like you are not able to explain about book or like that, or you know how to come out of this situation?
Well, the only way you can come out of any situation is by remembering Krishna. We're always stuck, moment to moment, in some situation. But the solution to becoming unstuck is to think of Krishna. Our minds are always giving us some trouble. The mind wants to take us anywhere. The mind would rather think of anything than think of Krishna. The mind is so rascal. Mind is badmash, number one. But the mind can become controlled by thinking of Krishna, by chanting very loudly. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. There was a question in the back. Microphone. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram. You can ask in Hindi, we'll figure it out.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So he wants to ask that everyone should follow their own dharma, or is it right to follow
Everyone should follow their own what?
all dharma?
What is their own dharma? You have your own dharma? What is that dharma? ये dharma किसने बनाया? तुमने बनाया? Dharma. So what is that dharma? Everyone's own dharma. Huh? You can't have your own dharma. That's not possible. Dharmam to sakshat bhagavat pranita. Dharma comes from God. We don't, everybody has their own dharma. What is that? Conditioned soul's dharma is eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Like a pashu, animal. What is that dharma? No, dharma comes from God. Dharma means the laws of God. Just like there's the laws of the state. Your business is to know what are the laws of the state and follow the laws of the state. Then you become a good citizen. In the same way, if you want to be a human being, you have to know what are the laws of God and follow them. You can't have your own dharma. Everyone's following their own dharma. That's not possible. ये कुछ मतलब नहीं है. Own dharma, खुद का dharma. There's only one dharma coming from Krishna. So our business is to know what Krishna wants us to do and to do that thing. He's Bhoktaram, Yagitapasam, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, Suriram Sarvabhutanam. Supreme owner of everything, controller of everything, and enjoyer, and our friend. So when we realize that, dharma means to follow that. And then we'll be properly situated. Okay? Yes.
Yesterday, his grace Srimati Prabhu took us lecture, to the lecture, and he told a lot of things about Srila Prabhupada. And then one of the things he mentioned that the eyes of Srila Prabhupada always used to be red. Or whether pure devotees see the deities, or even when they remember God, even when they remember Krishna, tears start to come automatically from their eyes. If you can talk more about a beautiful relationship between a pure devotee and God, and how to attain at least how to person of that.
So Shrutikirti was explaining.
Yeah, he told us that Srila Prabhupada is always used to be bed.
Yes.
So I want to talk about
Well, just as Shrutikirti Prabhu had opportunity to personally serve Srila Prabhupada, very fortunate that he had that opportunity. But everyone has that opportunity. There's two types of service or association. One is through Vani and one is through Vapu. Serving the personal form of the spiritual master is very good. But more important is to serve the instructions of the spiritual master. Because personal association may be appreciated or not appreciated. But by serving the Vani, or the instruction of the spiritual master, that will keep with us always. Okay? So Srila Prabhupada's instruction, if you want to be associated with Srila Prabhupada, if you want to develop your relationship with Srila Prabhupada, then distribute his books. As he said, if you really want to please me, then distribute my books.
So my question was, in Mumbai especially, we go straight for Buddhist mission and we see that people come out of mall with hundreds by spending thousands of rupees on things which they don't need, but they wish to make for the what more we should maintain? How should we deal with the goals that we come in, especially?
Well, the Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Manushanam sahasreshu kaschit yatati siddhaye yatatam apisiddhanam kaschin mamvati tatvataha. That out of 1,000, one's going to be interested in spiritual life. Right? Krishna says. So we're looking for that person that is sufficiently frustrated, that is thinking, why am I suffering? How to get out of this suffering? This is actually an intelligent person. But mostly, 99%, they're all mudhas. They're stuck in this idea that something in the mall is going to make them happy, which never does. We're looking for that person. So we may have to go through so many to come to the right person. But if we keep trying, if we pray to Krishna, Krishna will send that person to you that is sufficiently ready to take a book and start their spiritual journey back home, back to God. So don't waste your time. A lot of times somebody's not taking the book and we're like trying to convince them and try, why? When Vaisheshika Prabhu says, when the mango's paka, you don't have to pull very hard. The mango fruit, it comes. Just a little thing and it comes. So we're looking for the ripe fruits. Why go for the kacha mango? You're pulling and pulling, you break the branch off, trying to get the mango. Don't do that. Lord Chaitanya will send you. Look for the paka people that are ready for Krishna consciousness. And that should be our prayer. My dear Lord, send those people who are ready to take your mercy. Yes.
I want to know your first experience when you distribute your books.
First time I distributed books?
Yes.
I don't know. I can't really remember. Must have been out on Harinam Sankirtan. When I was a new bhakta, what we did was right after Bhagavatam class, the whole temple was cleaned. In 35, 40 minutes, everyone had a part of the temple to clean. And then after that, we went out on Harinam Sankirtan. So while the Harinam Sankirtan was going on, we would try to sell Back to Godhead magazines. So that was my first experience in selling books, was to sell Back to Godhead magazines out on Harinam Sankirtan. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So my question regarding this faith. So sometimes actually we are losing our, I'm losing my faith. When I can't be able to chant attentively, and sometimes missing association with the devotees. So how we can keep this faith constantly every time at any situation?
Well, in the beginning, faith is something that it kind of builds up for some time, but then it goes down after some time. Just like in the Nectar of Devotion, it's described like the waning and the waxing of the moon. Now is the Amavasya, the dark moon, and you go from the full moon, and slowly the moon becomes dark, and then it gradually becomes bright again. So our Krishna consciousness is something like that. Sometimes it seems like it's getting more and more, and sometimes it seems like it's getting less and less. So the devotee that is successful is he tolerates this. Like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that you have to tolerate it. Even though it's cold in the winter, still you take your bath. Even though it's hot in the summer, still you have to cook, isn't it? In the same way, although it seems like our Krishna consciousness is waning and waxing, still we tolerate it. Be steady in our devotional service, chant our rounds, read the books, try and distribute the books, and gradually we'll come to that platform where we'll be more steady and fixed in our faith in Krishna and the process of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I have two questions. So, my first question is that how can one effectively choose friendship within the devotees community, which is quite good for spiritual growth? And second is
Well, wait a second. What is that again?
how can one effectively choose friendship within the devotee community?
Choose friendship?
Yes.
Oh.
Within the devotees community, which is good for spiritual growth. And second question is like, what should be the approach towards those devotees which association is not quite suitable for the spiritual advance?
Well, first of all, we got to know what real friendship is. Srila Prabhupada said that I'm your friend as much as I'm telling you that Krishna is your only friend. Our real friend is Krishna. Suryadam Sarvabhutana, friend of every living entity, is Krishna. He's the real friend. And inasmuch as we're associating with others in a mood of cooperating together to serve Krishna, then that friendship that we have with Krishna, it expands outwardly, unlimitedly, with so many. You may not even know someone, but yet you understand that this is a part and parcel of Krishna. And Krishna is your friend. And due to that relationship, you try to help that part and parcel understand his relationship with Krishna. And this is the mood of the devotees, especially the gopis. So traveling, selling books is in the mood of the gopis, helping everyone become connected to Krishna. And that's real friendship. And as far as the devotee community is concerned, association with devotees doesn't mean that you're just physically associated. Association with devotees means that you talk about Krishna. You tell others about Krishna. You read something from the Krishna book, you tell that to somebody else. And that is association with devotees. Share what you've heard, what you've read about Krishna with others. Right? So only devotees are going to want to hear. The non-devotees, they're not so interested. So that means sadhu sangha. Is that all right?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, during book distribution, sometimes it happens, you convince a person to take a book. He is ready to take a book by giving explain. We are also ready to give him, but some obstacle will come, like if you are distributing on signal, so there is a time limit. You convince that person in 1 minute and suddenly green signal started and gone. If you are in train, we convince some person to take a book. He is ready to give us, maybe we are ready to give book, but suddenly corporate command and say how you came in this book. So then will regret like 2 seconds why I could have not could have given book, or then you regret like I could have kept my script shorter. for 5 seconds, or this statement I should have not spoken. So maybe I could take a judgment we will go how to overcome this situation because then you regret this line I should have not spoken so that I could have taken judgment. It feels like so close and yet too far.
Well, there's always ups and downs in anything that you try. Every endeavor is covered by some kind of fault. So, like you said, um, you want to tell them something, but you want to tell them just as much as you need to tell them to sell the book, right? You don't want to explain too much because they're really not in a position to understand it. So, because if you're at a stoplight, you don't have much time. Okay? So you want to get him to where he'll take the book and you get the donation. So you can practice keeping your what you say to the person to get them to take a book just as much as you need to say, and not more than that, because the light's going to change, right? The main thing is to be enthusiastic. You know, nobody's enthusiastic in the material world about anything. They have to go to their job. They're not enthusiastic to go to their job. They have to go because they want the paycheck. No paycheck, no job, right? So they're not enthusiastic. But if you're genuine Krishna conscious enthusiasm, it's contagious. People want to know, wow, what's this guy doing? Why he looks so happy? Right? They're not happy. They don't have a clue how to become happy. They're only happy if they have one peg. Then they think they're happy. So be enthusiastic, and that's contagious.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. This is my very first yatra in Vrindavan.
Your very first yatra to Vrindavan.
Yeah. So here,
So how do you like it so far?
I'm actually very happy.
Good.
My person is in the Prabhupada.
My first yatra to Mayapur Vrindavan, I got dysentery. I got really bad dysentery. I was so sick, I just moved closer to the bathroom so I didn't have so far to go.
I feel like citizen of beauty is like identity. And my person is in the Prabhupada quarter. I feel like very attentive chanting. So my question is, how come I attentively chant in every place that being and everywhere?
I didn't catch that. What was that?
Uh,
Oh, how can you effectively chant everywhere? Well, just chant wherever you are. Chant. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. You know, it doesn't have to be like that, that you go on yatra and you get a little excited about chanting. You get back home and you forget your chanting. Just remember to chant, that's all. Okay. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.